Welcome to Rosie's Kitchen. We want to thank Rosie for hosting this benefit Tupperware party for the Onega Historical Society today. And we're in for a treat as she demonstrates a couple of foods that might be useful for Thanksgiving. So, Rosie?
Thank you, Debbie. So let me show you first of all, what I've done is chunk up 5 pounds of potatoes, and this is the stack cooker that I just dumped water on the counter. This is the stack cooker that I have these in. Typically when I do the potatoes, I don't put hardly any water on them, but I cut them up early this morning so I could be organized and then forgot what hour it was. So anyway, but I cut them up, and the salt water worked because these have been cut up for about 3 hours. So they didn't turn brown at all. So typically when you chunk these all up, just put them in a dry pan and then just put maybe a tablespoon of water on them, no more than that. So since these have been soaking in water, I'm going to go ahead and drain this off, but I'm not going to add any more water onto it. So, and then we will put these in the microwave and cook them on high for 21 minutes. So for 21 minutes, we don't have to worry about these. We don't have to pay any attention to them. You can read a book, one of my books. You can read a book, or you can take a nap, or play with the kids, or do whatever you want to. Now, there is a difference in using, I don't know, I think you can see this better now. I can tip it better without spilling anything out of it. But 5 pounds will fill that very full. And this is not too full. You can see the cone down inside there. Very important that you have that cone in it, because if you didn't, the microwaves can only penetrate about 1 inch to 1.5 inches in. And so they would not be pushing all the way through here. But by having that cone, you're coming in from the outside, down from the top, up from the bottom, and then they're coming in through that cone and going out all different directions. So you're going to be able to get this done evenly all the way through. So let me get this in here. And luckily, the microwave will run over 30 minutes without shutting off, so JR didn't have to worry about that with the chicken. So this is the chicken, and I went ahead, because it did cook 36 minutes, I did start this before everybody got here. And you always want to open this away from you so that the steam goes off in the other direction. This has been sitting for probably about an hour because I started it at 1:30 instead of 2:30 because I forgot what time it was. So what I'm going to do is dump off the broth out of this, and then I want to show you how I put the cone inside here. Ouch. Still really hot. A lot of broth in there. And we're actually going to use this broth to make some gravy. And so we'll chunk up some of that chicken and make a cornstarch gravy, and then we'll put that over the mashed potatoes so you guys can see that done. The mashed potatoes that we're going to do, and did I post the recipe? Okay, so the recipe is on the Historical Society page. This is probably my favorite mashed potato recipe because you can make these, for example, on Thanksgiving Day, you can make them on Monday or Tuesday and refrigerate them, warm them back up, and they do not taste like leftover mashed potatoes. They taste like you made them fresh. So they are a wonderful make-ahead recipe. Now, I've not ever frozen them, so I don't know how they freeze. But your 5 pounds of potatoes has 2 sticks of butter, a package of cream cheese, and about a cup of sour cream. There is no milk in it. And there is a difference, oh, and salt and pepper. There is a difference in using red potatoes versus white potatoes versus Yukon Golds. My potato choice is a Yukon Gold. I like the texture that it has. Now, people that are potato experts will tell you that mashed potatoes should only be made with a russet potato, which would be a white potato. That's a much drier potato, and if you're going to cook that one, you may need to use a little bit more water. The Yukon Golds are almost like a combination of the two, and honestly, I don't know much about potatoes, so I don't know what the characteristics are that a Yukon Gold has But I can tell you, if you make mashed potatoes with red potatoes, they're going to be more pasty. So to me, the Yukon Golds are the first choice. Now on this chicken, when I made this, let me get a cutting board here and we'll flip this out so you guys can see this. And you can use a thermometer on this to see if it's done. Now this has been setting for a little bit, so I'm able to handle it. But if this was fresh out of the microwave, remember you always let things stand for 1/4 of however long they cook. See the cone that we have up inside it? That just holds it upright. Have you done this one at home? Okay. So when I make this, I didn't like how the wings look, so I cut off the bottom of the wings, and then I tuck them up, and I cross the feet in front. And so that's going to protect them, because you can see this bone is a little bit exposed here. Your things that are your meatiest part is going to be the most protected, and you leave the skin on. Now where the skin comes off, there's a little bit of hardness right here, but this is nice and soft. So this skin obviously came off early on, where this one just popped off later on. But you can use a meat thermometer on these, or you can just take the legs and go like this, and look at that. There's a bone right there. So we just lift this out, that leg will just pull off. Is that not incredible? And look how moist that is. In fact, we will give everybody just a little bit of a taste here so you guys can see this. Now, there are all kinds of seasonings that you can put on this, and some people like to do rubs, so you can do whatever flavor rub you want to do. But when I do these at parties, I don't put any seasoning on them at all, because poultry has a lot of natural sodium. Well, I don't know if it's a lot, but it has natural sodium in it, and so you don't have to, I don't add anything to it for people to taste. I want them to taste what's the flavor of what's really there. So Debbie, if you want to come up here, I'll pull some of this off, and we'll just let people try this. Now this is, let me get my shears here, and we'll give you a little piece of white meat and a little piece of dark meat. And we are going to take all this skin off now that we're done. Look at that. Isn't that incredible? And that's 36 minutes in the microwave. So when you hear people say that the microwave dries your food out, look at that. So. And no pink in here, so we've got it nice and done. I'll get some napkins here. Let me get 1, 2, 3. And this is still pretty warm, so maybe it wasn't a bad idea to cook it an hour ago. Oh, thanks, Debbie. There's another. Now, can you taste that? And that has no salt, no pepper on it at all. That is just chicken with no seasonings in it. So that's why I like to cook it at parties, cooking demonstrations, so that people can see that and taste it without anything on it. And then you can decide. Now, if you had boiled that chicken, you're going to have to add a lot of flavors back into that, because you've cooked a lot of stuff out, and without putting any water whatsoever in that, this is how much broth we cooked out of it. Now this chicken started out over 6.5 pounds. So I think it was 6.58, and it's important when you're buying these, look at the weight on them. And then I take off about 1/2 pound, because I cut off the tail. I don't know how many of you have ever butchered a chicken, but I butchered chickens and I refuse to eat tails. So I cut off the tail. This chicken did not have any giblets in it, and it honestly did not have much fat around the base of it. I usually trim out all the extra fat that's around there if there's a lot of that. It didn't. This chicken was really mostly meat. And then I cut off the wings. They looked kind of dark on the ends, so I clipped off the ends of the wings. We won't eat much of that very end there anyway. But anyway, that's how it works. So let me pull some more meat off here. Anybody have any questions? How many of you boil chicken from time to time to make stuff? Do you like the smell of it?
No.
Anybody like the smell of it? Some people really like the smell of boiled chicken, some people don't.
I like fried chicken, the smell of it.
I like the smell of fried chicken. I'm not real fond of the boiled chicken smell. Some people say put bay leaves in it and it will smell better. But you know, Debbie came when we were cooking this and it smelled good, didn't it?
Good.
Yeah. So, now I'm not going to debone all this. I just want to do enough to put in this gravy so you guys can taste this. Because it almost seems like if we're going to have mashed potatoes and we're going to have chicken, we ought to have them together. But this would be the chicken that you could use if you wanted to make chicken and noodles. You know, anytime that I'm going to do a whole chicken and I'm not going to fry it, this is how it's going to get cooked. So, have you done this before, Loretta? This is so easy. And the stack cooker, one of you guys verify the price on that for me. I want to say it's $119 or $120. $119 is the regular price. I have 3 of them in stock, and they will be $105. So if anybody wants a stack cooker today, that is the piece that we are using for both of these recipes. So now, very important that you do not take this chicken skin off before you cook it, because you can see this one shoulder here. Well, I already pulled it off. Actually, we were able to use all the meat.
On the other side.
Huh?
Shoulders on the other side. Here, look at the tuchus.
Hello. This meat here is a little bit dry, right up here on this very top, where this shoulder was exposed, because the skin broke free. But here on the breast, where the skin was covering it, I think Debbie can tell you that's just as nice and moist as can be. So, and there's enough chicken here that we can do. I'll probably do like chicken Alfredo tomorrow. I thought about doing that today, but it takes a little bit more time. So, anyway, does anybody have any questions?
So if you were to use a rub, do you put it on the outside of the chicken or do you put it inside of the cone?
I would put it on the outside of the chicken. Yeah, and just rub it in. Some people will do salt and pepper too. I usually don't put much, try not to use much salt when I'm cooking it. JR doesn't use as much salt as he used to, but he used to salt and pepper everything really heavy once it came to the table, and so look how tender that is. So I don't put tons of salt on it. Now, I would if I was making gravy. Obviously, I'm going to use salt and pepper in there, but on this, I'll probably, even when I cook it for us, I don't put much for seasoning on it, because then that opens it up for whatever else I want to do with it. And it doesn't need that salt on there. I can add the salt for the recipe. I don't need that salt on it to start with. Now in the potatoes, because I was getting them ready so early, I did put salt in the water, and I used, our oldest son is kind of a foodie, and he's got me started on sea salt. And what's nice about sea salt is it absorbs, it dissolves in the water. So you don't end up with this white milky powder at the bottom of whatever food you're making. It's all dissolved right into the food. So when he made holy water, he had to use salt that dissolved in the water. And I mean, it's just as clear as can be. It doesn't come back out. So he used salt, sea salt, to make our own holy water. I have a jar of homemade holy water over there that Austin made. How cool is that?
I didn't realize holy water had salt in it.
It does. It has something to do, and this would be an Austin question, but it has something to do with faith. And honestly, I'd have to research that to tell you what it is, but I don't remember. So, but yes, it does have salt in it. And that might be part of a preservative too, you know, because you're going to keep that water a while. I haven't tasted it, so I don't know how much you can taste it, but you're going to have a little bit of salt flavor on those potatoes. I didn't put very much in it. I just took a spritz of it. and threw it in the bottom and then filled it up with water. But those potatoes sat for 3 hours and they're still nice and white, so that obviously worked. So, any other questions? This bird gets
So
pretty...
can you do a small turkey that same way or not?
Well, you know, the small turkeys, when you talk small, are you talking 8 pounds? Probably, but you want to remember where that broke open, it's going to dry out a little bit. So the bigger your bird is, the longer you're going to have to leave it in. So, now the other thing that you could try, and I've not done this, I'm not a big fan of turkey, so I don't ever make it, but you could also lay that chicken over, and I would lay it on its back and put the breast up. And I've seen it cook that way. I didn't watch the whole demonstration, but somebody was demonstrating doing it that way in the microwave. And she had a rub on hers. So if you're going to do that, I think that's what I think I'd do. And then that might protect those shoulders just a little bit more, because if the longer you're doing this at 6 minutes per pound at 70% power. So that's a lot of minutes. I mean, we're talking, that chicken was cooked for 36 minutes. And when you think about cooking something for 36 minutes in the microwave, that would terrify your normal person. So, and the bigger it is, you know, an 8-pound one, you're talking 48, right? 8 times 6 is 48. So you're talking even longer. So, all right, I'm going to put just a little more breast on here, and then we're going to call this good. Anybody else have questions? Okay, I'll just leave this set for a minute. Cats will be very happy tonight. The other thing that I like about cooking in the microwave is the cleanup. And I'll show you what this pan that we cooked this chicken in for 36 minutes looks like. We're not going to have to soak this to get it clean. I mean, it's going to come right out of there. So, looks like I've already soaked it. Yeah, super easy to clean up. So this is the stack cooker, and this is one of the pieces that I was talking about that we're going to put on sale. This is the 3-quart casserole. It has a 1 3/4 quart, and for the chicken, I actually flipped the middle casserole upside down over the chicken because it was too big for the cover to go on. Now in the microwave right now with the potatoes, we have the cover over the potatoes. So the other piece that comes with it is a colander, and it looks like this. So some people actually use this for steaming. You can use it to brown your hamburger or brown your sausage. I do meatballs in here. So our go-to meal for a holiday, and remember I don't like turkey, so there's never any turkey at our house, but our go-to meal is meatballs and mashed potatoes. And so I will set this colander down inside the 1 3/4 casserole. I usually put a couple tablespoons of water in the bottom because I'm going to do 4 batches. My meatballs make 4 pounds because when all the kids come home, they love meatballs. And so I pre-cook them for 6 minutes at 70% power. Now, they aren't completely done, and then I throw them in the crock pot with the sauce on them, and usually I do that before we go to church, and then they're ready when we get back home. So I use this colander a lot, but not necessarily as a steamer. I use it to drain grease. You can also stack up and cook in here, and Jared and I do that sometimes, where you'll have a side dish in the bottom, the main course is in the middle, and then you flip the cover upside down, and you have another side dish on top. And it's enough for 4 people. The meals are really fairly healthy, unlike our mashed potatoes are going to be today. Every once in a while I'll have somebody ask me, now can you make that with fat-free cream cheese? And it's like, really? You know, we've got sour cream cheese, and 2 sticks of butter. No. Fat-free cream cheese is not going to help you, sorry. So, And sometimes it affects your flavor a little bit. So I'm going to put this meat in here. Now, I'm a firm believer in smelling food rather than tasting it. I will taste it a little bit, but I'm more likely to smell it as I cook than I am to taste it. And I work really hard with my grandkids to get them to use their noses. It's not working very well. But Waylon's twin, August, he's 3.5, he smells everything. I am so excited. The nose has gone on. It's very exciting. So I'm just going to stir this up in here. Now, if we had more time, I would probably set this broth up in the freezer and skim some fat off of it. But like I said, that chicken, for as big as it was, I really didn't trim much fat off of that. And so you can see a little bit hugging on the top of it, but I don't think it's too bad.
Lots of time there's a flavor in that particular.
It is, yeah. So I'm going to add some cornstarch to this. Now, some people will put their cornstarch in and thicken it before they add their meat. But for those of you that have a problem with getting lumps in your gravy, if you put your meat in first, nobody knows which is lumps and which is meat. That's my philosophy. So we will do that. And if you're going to ask me exactly how much I'm going to use, that's going to be a problem. How much do you think I should use, Debbie?
I have no idea. I just don't.
Now, for those of you that don't know Debbie and I's relationship, she was my supervising teacher when I did my student teaching. So if I do anything that's off the books or wrong, blame Debbie. So
in home economics.
In home economics, yes. Okay, so just so you know, there's about 2 of this size spoon overflowing. Now, if this was really, really hot, which it's not, then I would need to put it in cold water and add it to this, or it would set up in one giant lump, which would be very, very bad. But it's not. It's pretty lukewarm, so it's just about the right temperature now to stir cornstarch into. And it shouldn't take it terribly long. Once the potatoes come out, they need to stand. Remember, your standing time is 1/4 of however long you cook it, so the potatoes are going to stand for about, what, 6 minutes? Something like that. We should be able to have this gravy done in just a little bit more because, of course, we're going to make it in the microwave too. Who would use this on top of the stove when you can make it in the microwave and not have to worry about scorching? So, anyway, boy, have I made a mess. This is the hardest thing when I go to other people's houses. See this mess all over the floor? I do the same thing when I'm in somebody else's house. This is what sea salt looks like. It's very grainy. It does not have any iodine in it. And I would use, if you're going to use it when you're cooking, I prefer it, if I'm going to bake, I use regular salt. But when I'm cooking, I really like this. But it is a saltier salt. So if it calls for a teaspoon and you're a measurer, don't use a full teaspoon. Probably use 1/2 to 3/4. But it is really, whoops, really salty. And I'd never used it until I saw Waylon using it, and it's like, well, why do you buy sea salt? What's so amazing about sea salt? And he said it absorbs into the food, so you don't have it standing at the bottom, excuse me, puddling at the bottom. It's going to absorb right into it. So I like that a lot.
Now I get mine in a little grinder, a jar.
Yep, you can do the same thing, yeah. That probably came from Sam's and I just bought like a big bag of it. So, any other questions? So, if we were doing this, let's just say we were doing it for Thanksgiving, or for any meal, if you wanted to make chicken and noodles, and again, we have a pasta cooker, and this is what you ordered, Debbie. Super simple item, and this thing works like a charm. I haven't boiled pasta except when we're making like enough for all the kids coming home. But if we're just making some for the grandkids and for us, I don't boil pasta anymore. So if you look on this, there's 2 lines, 3 columns of 2 lines each. So you have 1, 2, 3 servings on one side, 4, 5, 6 servings on the other. And your bottom line is your pasta line, your top line is your water line. So it's super, super easy. Dump your pasta in first. Spaghetti works fantastic in here. And then put your water in up to the fill line. Leave your cover off. If you put your cover on while it's cooking, it is going to boil over. But you notice that one end of this is open. So you put this on when it comes out, you put this on, and then you can drain your water right out, and you don't have to get another colander or something dirty. Now if I'm making macaroni and cheese, a lot of times I'll put the stuff right down inside here, but you want to cut your power if you're going to do that, because if you don't, your pasta cooker's going to get some char marks on the inside like this one. You can see a few of the char marks. It doesn't affect how it works, it just affects how it looks. So I'll continue to do it because I don't like to wash dishes. So even though JR washes most of the dishes, we have an agreement. I like the dishwasher, he doesn't like the dishwasher. So if I do the dishes, I use the dishwasher. If he does the dishes, he washes them by hand. And he doesn't like the dishwasher running, so guess what? He washes all the dishes. It's very wonderful. I should have figured this out a long time ago. So anyway, questions on that? This chicken, once I get all done here, then I'll go ahead and debone it, throw it in the refrigerator, or we can put it in the freezer if we want to save it for later, but I'll probably just refrigerate it because that is enough for us to get 2 meals out of. That's a big chicken. So, and I looked at them, I got these at Dillon's just because it was 9 o'clock when I hit Manhattan, so, you know, I like to do my shopping at night, but all the chickens were over 6 pounds. So I don't know. I looked at some up here the other day, but I didn't need them that soon, so I didn't buy one. I don't remember how big Charlie's were, but you know, that's fine too. But all the ones at Dillon's were monsters. So, and one of the things that you'll see, and I don't see it on these legs, but a lot of times on the chicken legs, they'll be cracked, and that's because the birds get so big that they can't support the weight, and so their legs will break and when it gets closer to the processing time. Or maybe it's in processing, but it's partly because they're so big. But now these didn't, so these legs are all completely intact. So anyway, both of them, those are big legs. That's just a plain big chicken. But I was very impressed at the lack of fat on that. I thought sure when I cleaned out the inside, you know, they don't do a very good job of cleaning those things. So they're very disgusting. It made me sick to stick my hand down inside there. But it wasn't bad. I didn't get that much out of it, but I do clean it on the inside because you have to look at that when you're opening it up, and I don't like to look at all that stuff in there. But usually I trim clumps of fat off, real thick, heavy fat. You guys know what I'm talking about. Usually I do that. I did not with this chicken. There just was one little clump of fat, and I trimmed off some extra skin. Like I said, I clipped those wings off. I was going to take the yellow off the ends of the feet down here, but I'm not going to use that anyway, so it's like I'm not going to waste time trying to get that off there. Oops, I should have started this. This is Tupperware's whisk. Probably going to get it started a little while ago. You know, one of the things that I found in teaching kids to cook, I love to teach kids to cook in the microwave, because to me, your #1 cause of failure in microwave cooking is overcooking. But even at this, you know, I cooked that for what? Almost the full, what I have it in there, 6 minutes. I cooked it almost the full time without stirring it. And yet, I don't have any scorching. This is getting pretty thick. I might put it back in just a little bit longer. This has got pretty nice consistency, and I was able to stir those lumps out of it. So probably would have been a good idea to start it at 3 minutes, but you know, microwaves are a wonderful way to cook, and they're a wonderful way to teach kids because it's instant gratification. You know, you don't have to wait a long time on this stuff. Okay, so let's look at these potatoes now. That was 6 minutes, so we know that our potatoes have stood long enough. And so we're always going to open this with the cover away from us because this will have steam on the inside and we don't want to get a steam burn. So you always open everything away from you. And now I'm going to dump them right into my mixer. Oh, let me show you how tender these are. Now remember, this was 21 minutes on high. Put my sharp knife. Mr. Clean already washed everything up.
Wow.
Yeah, and see that cone? That allows us to have everything cooked nice and evenly. The cone will end up on top, so you don't have to worry about trying to get things out of here. And you don't have to drain anything. We don't have any potato water in here, except for maybe a couple teaspoons, maybe a tablespoon, so I never drain it. I just dump it right in there. Now, like I said, if you're making that with the white potatoes, you might have to use just a little bit more water, or you might have to add a tiny bit of milk. I don't ever do it with russets, so I don't know. And the other thing that I love about the stack cooker is I can grab this in and out of the microwave without hot pads. Now, when JR took the chicken out, he had to be careful because that cover was slipping. Remember, we had one casserole on top of the other. So it was slipping a little bit, and the steam can burn you. Now, this smells like it needs salt and pepper to me, so I'm going to add salt and pepper to it. And if JR was around, he would taste it. But since he's not around, if somebody else would like to taste it, they can. You guys like pepper?
Not a lot.
Not a lot? Okay.
Just your normal.
I tend to use a lot. Okay. So Debbie, would you like to come up and taste this? Okay. Now, I just put the salt in here, and it's probably not, let's wait a little bit. Okay. Sorry about that. Let's wait a little bit and let the salt get dissolved, because it'll dissolve fairly quickly. And that way she won't get a grain of salt in there. But here is there's our gravy topping to put on our chicken. How easy is that, guys? I mean, really, how much time have I spent in the kitchen doing this? You know, a lot of this is done beforehand. Okay, so 2 sticks of butter in our potatoes. And for those of you that love margarine, let me just say that there is no comparison between margarine and butter. So you will never see a recipe that I write myself that calls for margarine. That was something that was introduced in the 60s, and it was quite a fad. And if I see recipes when I'm judging at county fairs that call for margarine, I know that it's a recipe out of the 60s, because all these women had grown up with real butter, and for whatever reason they thought margarine was just the cat's meow. You cannot get the flavor with butter, with margarine, that you can with butter. 1 package of cream cheese. I don't know what our friends in Germany think of cream cheese, but I know they're not impressed with our Velveeta. Did I tell you guys that last time at the party? I was doing a party with some gals from Germany, and I'm sure that they were soldiers' wives. I don't remember anymore, but it was in Manhattan. And they all had talked like this. And so, anyway, They love Tupperware. Let me tell you, Germany is big, big, big in Tupperware. We used to do contests every January to see who could sell more Tupperware, Germany or the whole United States. And 3 out of 5 years they beat us. Yeah, incredible. But anyway, this gal, I had a Velveeta keeper on the table, and she picked it up and she goes, "What is this?" And I said, "That's a Velveeta keeper." I explained what it was, and she goes, "Oh, Americans, Velveeta is not cheese?" But we Americans like our Velveeta. But I still have a few Velveeta keepers down at the shed, and I'm telling you, that stuff has no expiration date, because you can put it in the refrigerator in that Velveeta keeper and it's still good 6 or 8 months later. It will dry out a little bit on the end if you leave it in the box, but you can even take it out of the wrapper and leave it in there and it's going to be fine. So I'm sure it's loaded with preservatives. Okay, and then I am going to put some sea salt in this. Sorry, trip over my rug. Not very much. And some pepper. Oh, Loretta, you want to go out on the porch, or somebody go out on the porch and get me a container of sour cream. It's in in the refrigerator out there in one of the shelves. Okay. So, this is what it looks like so far. And I did not peel those potatoes, so I will pay a little extra for a potato that has a nice skin, because I don't want to peel. Now, when I was at Dillon's, none of their potatoes looked great to me. I did buy a 5-pound bag of reds, because the reds looked actually better than the Yukon Golds. Yep, thank you. And so I did buy a package of those, but the skins on these, I did have to take some off just to get rid of the spots. And sometimes when I'm cooking, I think about the stories of World War II and how those people starved, and I'll have those little shavings of nuts down in the bottom, and it's like, we are so spoiled here, because I'll toss those shavings of nuts because they have shells in them, and those people would have probably picked through those and ate everything. So this calls for, I believe it's 1 cup, but who's going to measure? Not me. If I can cut, I'll throw a little extra in. Put the cover on this, turn it on. Now you can mash your own. You look up there, that is a potato masher that came out of an old school. That thing's a beast. Now if you overmix potatoes, they will get pasty on you. So you don't want to overmix. Here's where your Yukon Golds come in, because you can see some of that, little bit of that yellow come out in there. Okay? And I will undermix before I'll overmix. I shouldn't use my fingers so much here. But these don't seem to have too many lumps in them. You can see a little bit of the skins. I do not take the skins off. Like I said, if I can get a potato with a nice skin, I'm not going to peel it. So let me grab some spoons here, and I'll let all of you try some fresh mashed potatoes, warm right out of the mixer.
You want our little plates back for that?
Oh sure, we can do that.
Remember your collar.
What do we have, 4 people?
I'll get yours last. I'll get Loretta's.
You can dip her first.
No, well, she's with the camera. So. Well, I think, Rosie, if we go back to our home ec days, you've got more nutrients if you leave the skins on the potatoes.
I believe you're right.
So you're healthier.
It's healthier. I was healthier long before it became the fad, let me tell you.
They used to not bother me until I got a whole mouthful of them at one time, just the peelings.
Oh.
Well, and like I said, you've got to...
That was the red russet potatoes.
Well, and you've got to, if you get those really bitter skins in there, then they ball all up on you.
Yep.
And they're not good. So you have to be careful that you get nice skins if you're going to leave the skins on. Aren't those potatoes good?
You've had this recipe a long time.
A long time. I have made this mashed potato recipe for almost as long as we've been married, shortly after we got married. My sister gave it to me. And I call them twice baked mashed potatoes because,
That's what they taste like.
yeah, exactly. But I'm telling you, this is the one recipe that you can have left over and you can warm it up and warm it up and warm it up and it still tastes like fresh mashed potatoes.
How did they freeze?
See, I haven't tried that. I never have enough left to freeze. But, you know, they freeze mashed potatoes all the time. They sell them in the stores. And I'm just appalled when I see these young couples come in there and buy mashed potatoes and pay the amount of money that they pay for them. You know, when they could be making them so easy. But an awful lot of people out there that don't know how to cook. So what do you think?
They're good.
Okay, so let's come and give you some more potatoes here. And then we'll put some chicken on it. And you can see what you think. I was telling him earlier this morning, I think it was when Debbie was here, I don't know, Loretta, if you were here, but I was mixing something up. I think I was trying to do bread or something, and I broke these beaters. And so my kids gave me some new ones for Christmas that year, because this is what I use for my chocolate chip oatmeal bars too, is this mixer. Anyway, they work fabulous for the potatoes, so who would throw them away when I can still make mashed potatoes out of them? So these broken mixed beaters have been used to make mashed potatoes for like 20 years. So,
And they're Tupperware?
no, this is it's a Bosch mixer. It's a German. It's boring. I mean, it's just a boring, plain design. But I'm telling you what, it is the best mixer I've ever used in my life. And I had one that we bought when one of the kids was a baby. And then when I was visiting Alina, like, well, it must have been 5 or 6 years ago, she still lived in Spokane. They had them on sale at Costco. Exactly the same mixer. So I bought it and put my old one on Facebook for 50 bucks, and Sherry, over at Wheaton. Sherry Croft? Nope.
Bronco.
Huh?
Bronco?
Yeah, Sherry Bronco bought it. And she was sending me text messages after that. And it's like, where has this been my whole life? This thing is fantastic. So, and it is. It's just the best mixer ever. All right, so I'm just going to leave these in the mixer for now. Obviously, if we were serving these, I would take them out. And I'm going to put a spoon in here. We'll put a spoon like this for the potatoes and one like this for the gravy. And then you guys just help yourselves here and try this. And then if you think it needs a little bit more salt and pepper, you go ahead and add that to it. So, come on up here. Yeah, well, yeah, I think so. Let's leave it on for Debbie to taste first. She can be the one that tastes it, tell you what everything tastes like. But that's 5 pounds. Now you can do that recipe if you want to do it with less. But I love making 5 pounds because if I make them for a potluck, that's how much we take. We take that whole casserole, and if there's any left, well then we're happy. And if there's a lot left, my kids are happy because they get to keep them. So. Isn't that good? Mm-hmm. And see how easy that was? And everything 100% in the microwave.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't know it.
She's right, it's delicious.
Okay. Thank you guys.